Well, hello everyone, and congratulations to our summer 2020 graduates. My name is Anthony Lai, and I am the Student Affairs Program Manager for the International School of Hospitality, also known as TISOH. To open the presentation, I would like to introduce TISOH Executive Director Timothy Lam, as he will share a brief message on behalf of the school.
Thank you, Anthony. Good afternoon. Welcome to our hospitality colleagues with us today. We're very happy to have you join us. To the TISOH students, alums, and especially our graduates, a warm hello and welcome to you all. I would like to give a special shout out to our faculty with us today. Cecilia Allred, Nalandra Anselmo, Carolyn Kelly Shelton, Sherry Licha, Pat Norman, Lenny Tallarico, and Eden Varai. This afternoon's talk was conceived as a special event for our graduates this semester. We would have been celebrating them at the 45th TISOH graduation ceremony and reception. Instead, we have to celebrate them in December at our next graduation event, pending government approval. Today's talk is dedicated to the graduates in celebration and in honor of their hard work and achievement. TISOH as a community has grown to well over 3,000 strong, and we welcome our newest graduates to the family. Today, we celebrate our unique brand of dreams, passions, and careers. To our extraordinary advisory board member and speaker today, Marti Weiner, we are thrilled to have you at this event. Thank you for your generosity. And now I would like to invite Nalandra Anselmo to say a few words to the graduates on behalf of the faculty.
Hi, thank you so much, Tim. So on behalf of the TISOH faculty, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate the summer graduates of 2020. Your hard work and adaptability and resilience has brought you to the finish line in a way that few other graduating classes have been able to accomplish. Although we're not celebrating in the way that we expected, it's a celebration nonetheless. And so it comes with all of our best wishes for your future endeavors. We look forward to seeing you as colleagues in the industry and want you to remember that we'll never be too far away. Don't forget to take advantage of all the resources available to TISOH alumni. This includes networking events and industry information and continued learning opportunities through our Climb program. Again, congratulations to all of you, and we will see you soon. Anthony.
Thank you both, Tim and Nalandra. To our audience, thank you for joining us. Are you ready for what's next? I hope you are, because all of you are in a special treat today as we have Marti Weiner, Vice President of Events for MGM Resorts Events Productions, and TISOH Advisory Board member, as she will provide us insights for what's next in the world of hospitality and what you should do to get yourself ready. Marti will cover the following topics. 1, finding inspiration to succeed in the hospitality industry during uncertain times. 2, understanding the role of hospitality and how the industry adapts to the new normal. 3, applying your skills and knowledge from TISOH and transferring it towards your new career.
Hi, thank you so much, Anthony, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for letting me join you. I'm Marti Weiner, and it's an honor to be here today. Congratulations to our newest graduates. Welcome back to alums, and greetings to all of you spectators who are here supporting a graduate or just joining us today to see what exciting tips we can share with you. So for those of you who are expecting there to be a silver bullet or a golden ticket, or maybe even a glimpse into a crystal ball, I am sorry to disappoint you. Like you, I don't actually have any of those things. However, I do think there's a deeper, much more meaningful conversation for us to have today. We may not have all the answers, but there is one thing that we share together, and that's our passion that led us to our choice of industry, hospitality. Taking a little bit of a step back in this to give you a little perspective, hospitality was not actually the first industry I tried out of college. I was a political economist. I made a lot of very fancy graphs. I calculated a lot of numbers, but it didn't speak to my heart. I was missing something, a way to impact someone's life just a little bit, make their day a little bit better, and to be a part of someone's challenge and help with a solution. You want to make somebody feel comfortable when they are out of sorts. Somewhere in this process, I realized that hospitality was not just an industry, but really it's a state of mind and a lifestyle. And you all probably know what I'm talking about because it's probably who you've been long before you could put a name on it also. So we know that hospitality is a thing far outside the confines of a job. For example, when you're a guest in somebody's house and they do a really great job, you thank them for their hospitality. You know, they've made you feel welcome. They've taken care of your needs. And if I was going to be a betting woman, I would say that they've mostly probably blown off your thanks because it's just how they live on a daily basis. When I was a economist and I worked at a mark, when I was working at a bank, you know, no one ever said to me, thanks for your finance. Now, that is unless, of course, we had given them, you know, some deal of money and some sort of loan, and then they were very thankful. But it didn't work the same way. And not to say that I didn't care about what I was doing nor being good at it, but I tended personally to lean into the customer service side of the business. And I like to hear the stories and concerns of our clients. You know, I was already being hospitable and using those skills long before I formally changed industries. So I appreciate where you are because hospitality comes from a very genuine and authentic place inside of you. And it says something really profound about you and the kind of person you are for following that passion and making it your career choice. And let me say, how lucky are we? How lucky that we get to do that, right? I feel lucky every single day that there's an industry and a very wide variety of jobs in a wide variety of regions that allows me to follow my passion. I'm so happy that you have that opportunity as well. It also says that you are very likely to stick with it, overcome obstacles, and find true fulfillment in the roles where you are using those skills. And again, not because of a title or a daily to-do list, but because it speaks to who you are as a person and your care for others. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say in this moment of time, right at the beginning of this conversation, when has that mattered more than it matters right now? Right now, we are living in a world that screams for hospitality, for the care and concern of others, for compassion in the smallest and the largest acts. So congratulations to you all. Above all else, you are the most qualified citizens of the world in helping people find comfort, solutions to their challenges, and bringing our lifestyle and passion to a greater audience. Over the years, by the way, if we were in person, I would applaud you all right now just for that. So I'm doing it in my head. Over the years, I've had the privilege of working with incredible professionals who have gone above and beyond the call of duty to assuage the concerns of guests, ease the burden of travelers, and even help locals who are seemingly lost. Using their resources, creativity, and operational mindsets, I've seen challenges solved in the most unlikely ways, and always with dignity and empathy. I'm really proud to share these values and passion with all of those individuals and with all of you. So, I know you were promised some tips today, so let's get to what you've really come for, some key lessons in what's next for you. We all know that this is an especially tough time for our industry as we face those words that we've all heard way too often lately. Unprecedented, uncertain, and so on and so forth down the line. So where do we go from here? What tangible advice can I give you today that you can take with you no matter what's next? So my very first lesson today, as it relates to the industry, as it relates to what's the new normal, no matter what that even continues to evolve and looks normal, is my first comment today is go with the flow. Remember when I said that hospitality is a lifestyle choice? Well, this is going to be your very first test right off the bat. Can you flex? Can you change gears? Can you adapt? If you are uncomfortable outside of your comfort zone, I'd say get some practice because you're going to need it to go with the flow. Now, when I say that, I mean it in a lot of different ways. I mean it in the most trivial and day-to-day that you encounter all the time, right? You end up running late because there's traffic, or your order isn't ready for pickup in your perfectly timed errands. It happens. You learn to work with it in whatever way works for you. Breathing deeply, focusing on the positive, working out a little harder that day just to take the edge off. But I also mean it in much larger ways. Everyone here today could tell some story about the last 6 months not going exactly the way you thought it would. And yet here we are today. On a positive side, and I really like to look for those, maybe you're even sharing this more broadly since we're online, right? Maybe you've brought some friends. Maybe you're, sharing with others in a way that you might not have. On the more challenging side though, maybe it's been tougher than you thought to get here. And with that, on behalf of everybody here, I would love to pause and say thank you. You and your efforts matter. And we appreciate you joining us. And we are so glad to be here to validate and celebrate your accomplishments. I don't want to underestimate at all what going with the flow is not always easy, but we're super glad that you are here today to be with us. So I will tell you my own story of going with the flow. And don't worry, it is relatively benign. The world could use, a little less than a heartbreak right now. So I'll tell you a relatively lighthearted version of a Marti story. I was not always as laissez-faire as I appear now, if I do appear that way. And I didn't always think of flexing and going with the flow as actually particularly useful character traits until I became an event producer. I had always prided myself on my preparedness and having all my ducks in a row and of all those colorful cliches that we all use. However, sometimes you just don't see it coming. The very first show that I ever produced on my own was a corporate event with a very large awards banquet. And there I was really ready for this, right? Binder in hand, headset on, and I was 30 minutes out from the opening of doors, and my room was perfect. Perfect. You know how that feels, right? You're like, I got this. Tables are set, your stage is lit, your crew is in place. And then the band got there. And it was like a scene out of a cartoon, right? You get a bunch of these cool cats who are all gonna snap their fingers and they're making their way across the floor, set room, and they're headed towards backstage. And they were the last folks that were going to show up, and I wasn't super worried about that. I knew this is when they'd be there. They were the opening of our show. Well, they had almost cleared the pipe and drape when the last dude caught his trombone case on this drape And to this day, I don't even understand how this happened. But the entire pipe and drape that was set up, separating the back of stage from my beautiful room, fell face first into hundreds of set tables. And they did so moments after the votive candles had been lit. Well, as you can imagine, pandemonium ensued. A waiter was hit by a pipe. Small fires were breaking out on any number of tables, and the crew was clamoring to figure out how they were going to get this drape back up there. And that trombone player, bless his heart, just stood there, trying to figure out what just happened. The good news was that everybody did an amazing job keeping this room safe. But of course, we were certainly not going to be ready to open those doors shortly after. So we came up with a plan, and we went with that. Now, the important thing here is actually not what the plan was, right? Every one of you is thinking, this is what I would do right in that moment. Here's why we prepare. Here's what I would do. The important part of this story is how I handled it. My first thought in that very moment was this is not a particularly auspicious way to start one's career. Then, for a moment, I was indignant. How dare someone mess up my perfect plan? And then you come to your senses, because what other option is there? And you say, you know what? I have no choice here. This is going to be a career-defining moment. And if I'm still talking about it, I guess it really was. Go with the flow. So probably right about now, you are also thinking how you've done this in your past and what situations may lie ahead. And somewhere in your head, you're thinking, that's awesome. I can't wait for the next ballroom that will allow hundreds of people in it simultaneously again. I share that thought also. But my advice is really this at the end of that story. Find your coping mechanism and overcome your lack of comfort when it doesn't go your way. Take your moment. Then hear the voice in your head that reminds you to be agile, and then get some practice in doing just that. This moment in time for all of us is going to be good practice. We talk about a new normal, but there isn't one yet. You know, health and safety standards continue to evolve. We tune in to hear every government official explain how things are going to adapt and change, and we're going to work on percentages and max numbers of people and all of these things, how we're going to work with guests in every environment. This is a skill that's a lot like yoga. You need to do it regularly to be flexible, and we're all going to need it in that time that lies ahead. So my second lesson for today is related to a question I get all the time. People always ask about my career path and what did I do and where did I need to be to get to where I am today? Well, on that news too, I have probably some good news and some bad news on that question. I think the bad news is that there is actually no simple answer. There is no blueprint for a career path, especially now. The trick here is that the great news and the great answer is there is no one right path. You can say yes to opportunities that come your way. You can use your skills to make them work for you, and you can add to your knowledge with every adventure. And I'm hopeful that that's both reassuring and relevant for you in this moment. You know, we've talked about hospitality is a state of mind, and it's not just one industry, one job title, one job path. You have skills that can go with you in a wide variety of directions. One of the best piece of advice that I ever got from a former boss was to always have 3 different ideas in mind as to what your next job might be. 3 divergent directions, and be ready to talk about them. That way you have conversation options, and when somebody asks you what you'd like to do next, you can go, you can pivot, you can be ready for that conversation, in addition to obviously the opportunities themselves. You're very lucky in the fact that your skills are transferable and universally valued. You have organizational skills, you have customer service skills, you have an eye for design and putting things together and really curating something amazing in an experience. As I mentioned, my whole career has been a little bit of an exercise in the long way there. I started in finance, I found my way to hospitality, and then I took a related detour to higher education, which, as a side note, turned out to be very relevant. It's a lot like hospitality, but in a world full of content. So after a few years in higher ed, however, I realized that as much as I loved being in this type of mission-driven organization, I was missing hospitality, but I didn't actually know what I was going to do about it. And out of the blue, a friend called and said he had an interesting opportunity to talk about. But there was one thing, and it was in Las Vegas. Now, important note here. I've traveled a lot for work, large percentages of the year. But I was born in New York, and I had never once lived more than 30 miles outside of Manhattan. A move to Las Vegas was a very big consideration. Also, the job was quite different than anything I'd ever done before. I had always been very corporate in my positions. I had handled corporate finance, and then corporate events, and then traditional work in a very traditional industry of higher education. But this opportunity was really different. It was about special events and design and decor for a huge entertainment company. And when I thought about it and I envisioned myself, it's not actually where I would have seen my very conservative dark suits and my very black, and blue high-heeled shoes that went everywhere and my, in my very conservative look. And my husband and I talked it over, and we thought it was a great chance. New location, new opportunity. And so we said yes. We drove across the country and started the life that we now know. And it's been 2 years, and we've been here. Every day that we've been here is absolutely different than I thought it would be. Our path has been very different. My career, the journey once we've been here, the twists and turns along the way. Some of that is that I just didn't know what to expect because it would have not been stated on that map. Plus, in a shared moment that we've all had, quite honestly, the last 6 months is an experience that none of us would have anticipated. So what is my takeaway from this very long story about me moving across country is that I had no idea what would greet me in Las Vegas or what I would learn from this adventure. But I said yes to the opportunity and am continuing to grow. I've met amazing people, including my wonderful TISOH friends. I've embraced a new community and continue to work through my own path. And you will too. It's your life and you are the only one that can navigate it. So really the lesson in this is as long as you're moving forward, the direction is yours alone to determine. I'll answer that question honestly always. Somebody says, well, what's the right career path and how did you get where you are? And I feel like no matter how long my career is and what those opportunities are, my answer to that question is never going to be more fulfilling for somebody who is looking for a straightforward answer. But hopefully the fact that it's an empowering answer especially as we navigate a lot of these unknowns, hopefully is empowering for all of you. And the last lesson that I wanted to share with you today is probably the most important and should really have the longest utility for you. This is the key. You ready? Big pause. Find your support system no matter what that looks like. Surround yourself with the people who feed your passion, who provide you balance, and allow you to be you. Having a hospitality mindset and not just a job function means that you give a lot. You put others first, and sometimes self-care takes a back seat to all of that. Your own well-being is an incredibly important part of your success, and remembering, especially in times of adversity and in times of unknowns, to feed your own soul. It's as significant as feeding and serving everybody around you. Right? And I hope all of that gave you a moment to take a deep breath and say, right, when is the last time I did that? When was my last deep breath? When's the last time I took really good care of me? I was a total workaholic for a very, very long time. And honestly, I felt like that was a key ingredient to my success. And while I loved to socialize and enjoy time with my friends, I always had an eye on the phone. I was never wholly present, and I was often late and missed things with people that I loved. And some of that I blamed on our hospitality that I chose to be a part of. I traveled. I worked nights and weekends. The hours are always a little bit odd. But part of it was my inability to find balance and set boundaries to make time for me. Quite honestly, nobody had even ever told me I was supposed to. So I didn't even know that that was something that I was supposed to prioritize. One night, I was at a happy hour with some work colleagues. Now, let's be real. Who else would I have been out with? They were the only people I ever got to see. And the evening slowly dwindled, and one person after another started to make their way home. And I found myself sitting at the bar with one other colleague who I didn't know particularly well. We sat there for a bit and we talked about absolute nonsense. We talked a little about traveling by plane. We talked a little about traveling by car. And I got some fascinating insight about how to best utilize rest stops and truck stops along the way. Although right now, I get that travel at all really feels truly like, yes, I'm getting on that road trip and I want to go there. I have to admit, in that moment, it was actually not particularly soul-searching conversation. There was no philosophy or religion. There were no tremendous aha moments. It was just chit-chat. But it moved along. The conversation came to a natural close. And I looked at my phone and I realized how long it had been since I had last done that. And somewhat shocked, kind of even partially to myself, I said, wow, I didn't realize how long we'd been here talking. And my conversation partner paused and he looked sort of shyly at me and said with not 1 ounce of condescension in his voice, "That's great. I was pretty sure you could do it." And I looked at him and and for the first time really looked at him and focused in that night. And I knew that that was my person. I had never been married. I had never wanted to be. And I cannot tell you with enough emphasis that I was the least romantic person that you could ever imagine walking the planet. I would be overstating if I said I knew that night that I would marry that man. But I have to tell you, I would be understating if I didn't acknowledge that I already knew he was going to help me be a much better version of myself. We have spoken every day since, and we have now been married for years. Comes in. See, I hear you saying it. I hear it. The moral of that story, honestly, is I'm not entirely sure. Truth can be found in mundane conversation. Maybe, maybe not. But I will tell you that finding the right support system changes how you are able to go with the flow and find your own path and face every obstacle that comes up along the way. So with all of that, let's talk a little bit about what's next for you. Whether you're a recent grad or an active alum, the great news is you have an amazing support system in the TISOH community. You've probably always heard this. We've already mentioned it earlier in our opening for today, but I do mean this because it does work. Stay in touch. Use your network. Participate in your alumni community. It's good for your heart and soul. It's good for your brain, and it's really good for your career. Also, continue to learn. There are a lot of opportunities right at your fingertips within this community, and certainly a big world of opportunities out there. You've already proven your commitment to bettering yourself through education by pursuit of your academic program, as well as your commitment to completion and graduating, and some of you continuing on with those programs and learning. Keep your skills fresh and practice what you've learned. All of this is going to help you make your own luck. Now, I'll be the first to admit a little bit of being in the right place at the right time never hurts, but often you can influence it and make your own luck by increasing the odds. It's not just about keeping your eyes and ears open for opportunities, but your heart and soul as well. When you feel positive and when you're communicating that vibe into the world, it's a little easier to hear what people are saying, what they're not saying, and when there's a chance to find a path for you. And lastly, remain calm. I had a mentor that told me that all the time a very long time ago, and at first I hated it. It sounded patronizing, it sounded condescending, and quite honestly, I wasn't very good at it. But actually, now I've sort of grown into that advice, so I hope you can grow with me into that advice and take it and internalize it. The world is an incredibly complicated place right now. But hospitality, both as an industry and a mindset, are valuable. People are eager to return to creating memorable experiences. There is a very big pent-up demand for travel and for the quality time that people want to have outside of their house. People miss how a change of scenery and the change that creates the backdrop for their changes in perspective. People are starting to venture out. They're feeling a little safe and secure. They want, they're just eager for a change. And with you serving as a key ingredient with how they'll feel that way, the opportunities will be endless. And you will be right there, prepared and open to what comes next. So with that, I want to thank you for your time today, and I hope that I've been able to provide you with at least a little bit of some insight and minimally a laugh. Again, I want to congratulate all of our graduates, welcome alumni, and thank everybody for the opportunity to join you and to speak with you today. I wish all of you the very best for your futures, and I look forward to hearing amazing tales of your successes. So with that, I will hand it back over.
Right. Well, thank you, Marty. Very, very inspiring presentation. I'm going to open the chat feature for questions from the audience. So if you have a question, submit it through your chat feature. So we'll go ahead and wait for the questions. But I have a question for you, Marty. Could you tell us a little bit more about your history? Because I see that you went from more the hospitality side, then you went to education, and then you went back to hospitality. What helped you move to different industries? Because I know many of us are facing that right now.
Sure. So I think that the key here is when you think about your resume, you think about it in two ways. You have your skills section and you have your experience section. And the beauty of careers in hospitality or skill sets in hospitality is that it actually fits into both areas. So what I've done in my career is found ways to harness the parts of my experiences that are transferable to a wide variety of activities. So I've always been very organized. I've always, loved planning and being part of that process. But I've also loved being strategic on the front end. Why are we doing this? What do we hope to achieve? And using that to say, you know what, that's relevant whether you have a career in finance, whether you're working in a traditional or non-traditional hospitality role, or even if you're working in education or any other industry. Who's not going to think that those types of skills are relevant? The other thing is that, pertinent to everybody that's here, is people understand how you get a deadline. None of our deadlines move. None of our guests can be put off to another point in time. So there's a sense of urgency in every story that I can tell about my career and in every interview answer that is relevant. And if you haven't thought through a couple of questions and answers, that stories that you have in your back pocket that demonstrate your sense of urgency, your ability to follow through, and some of those skills, I would hone those stories now so you have them. And you'd be amazed at the number of questions that those stories can fill in as answers for.
Great, thank you. So well, this one's sent to me privately, but I'll go ahead and mention it. It's from our student Elizabeth. She doesn't have a question, but she wants to thank Marty for a wonderful presentation, wonderful job, and was very refreshing.
Oh, well, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
All right, so any questions? Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and I'll leave it on. If you have a question in the meantime while I speak, please go ahead and submit it through the chat feature. But we'll have some closing remarks. All right. Okay. So to close, I want to thank our TISOH community, including our students, alum, faculty, and many of our industry friends for your participation tonight. And to our graduates tonight, I want to leave off with an important message to you, which is graduation is just the beginning. So what does that mean? Well, to echo the messages from Tim, Lalandra, and Marty, we want all of you to stay connected with us. Allow us to follow your dreams, your passions, and your careers. I invite all of our graduates tonight to please visit tisohnext.com, which you see on the screen, which is now your new alumni community hub. TISOH Next is now your new home. By visiting your new alumni home, you'll be updated with current school news, a dedicated job posting board, career tips, and resources, along with a monthly alumni spotlight so that you can forge new relationships with your alumni community. So stay connected with us through tisohnext.com. And lastly, but certainly not least, I want to share with you a special sneak peek of our fall lineup, a series of virtual events curated with the student in mind, including webinars aimed for career readiness, fun and interactive sessions where you enjoy and unwind, like coffee making, event design tips, and my favorite, a virtual game where you can win some prizes. So stay tuned for that. Well, From all of us at TISOH, stay safe and healthy, and we look forward to connecting with all of you soon. Have a wonderful day. Oh, wait, Marty, we actually have a question. Are you still there? Let me go ahead and unmute you. So, a question from Brian. What would be a good way to network since there isn't many meetings in person happening? I don't know about Las Vegas, but LA is almost impossible.
Yeah, that's Brian, that's a great question. It's a complicated time and a complicated set of circumstances. I think the best way to do that right now is one-on-one. I would talk to the people who you know and you feel comfortable asking, can you introduce me to a few other people? What you find, and even when you're on like a Zoom happy hour, etc., you don't find the normal banter of people who talk a little, but then the crowd shuffles and you move around. You find somebody facilitating the conversation and helping that conversation along. So I would take advantage of this opportunity to ask, do you have 2 or 3 people that you'd feel comfortable introducing me to? And reaching out and setting, 15-minute, fast coffee chat, conversations. And I've had a lot of folks reach out to me to do something similar. I've been happy to recommend others and make some connections, but this is going to be a much more directed route for networking in this moment in time than signing up and having that shared public experience. And Brian, I'm happy to volunteer if there's something, and I can put you in touch with a few people. I'm happy to start the pay it forward system to make that work. And I would encourage all of you to do that. I've met a few folks, and at the end of that call said, you know what? I know this person who's working and this person who's working. I'm going to send an email and introduce them both. And, I keep a little list, and I keep with some Post-its on the side of my desk. And when I think of something that would be a great person to be in, for someone else to be in touch with, I do that. And I like to pay it forward. I think people have been really good to me over my career about introducing and mentoring and etc. And you never know, right? You meet some friends, you meet some work colleagues, you just meet some great people. And then they keep you posted on where they're speaking and who's involved in there. And it builds a little on itself. I hope that answers your question, Brian.
Right, and it's echoing, it's very same and true. So anyone who's in the audience, connect with Marty. She's on LinkedIn. So just type in Marti Weiner, connect with her, and that's where you can build that connection with her. All right, well, I guess this is it. Oh, Brian says thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us for tonight, and we look forward to seeing you all virtually soon.